About 37 kilometres from Hamilton, New Zealand, going north on Highway 1, is a town of Huntly. And, near it is a place where I first lived for a year, for 4 years, Taupri. Taupri is known by its mountain, on the side of which is the Maori burial ground, cemetery, for the Maori royalty, the Maori kings and queen. And, it's a hierarchical setup. The most important are buried near the top, which of course is the royalty, and the rest are on the lower slopes, so to speak. Very large cemetery. Well, from a Maori point of view, very large. And not from a World War II or World War I point of view, of course, but yeah. I think the view is that it overlooks the water, you see, the mighty Waikato River, which drains right from the central plateau of New Zealand, the volcanic region and lake, huge lake, Taupo. Huge from New Zealand point of view, not from, say, North American point of view. What I want to get to in this matter is that Taupri Mountain itself is very distinct. It's a real, from a distance, just what you expect a volcano to look like, a sort of, like a round pyramid, you know what I mean? And there's many like that in New Zealand, they're everywhere, and some of them probably are pyramids, not volcanoes at all. I don't know, but I can imagine digging deep into them and finding a pyramid under it. But I don't think so with... that's a thought. Anyway, Taupri Mountain, lived on the side of it for a while, well, not far on the side of it. I was something like 6 houses from the bridge, Highway 1 bridge that goes across a stream following the course of the Waikato River flowing north. Interesting, don't get many rivers that flow north. The Nile is a spectacular example, and in its little way the mighty Waikato is mighty from the New Zealand point of view, flows north. But coming from the north to the town of Huntly, you can see what you think is Taupri Mountain, but it's not. It's a very similar shape and size, and I don't even know what it's called, but it's sitting there in the Taupri Mountain range. It's a range of mountains. So one of them is Taupri Mountain itself, on the south side of Huntly. I don't know how far away. I'm guessing, let's say 6 kilometres. Might be much less. Few kilometres. And there's this other one on the north side, but in the ranges. And I, for years, travelled up and down Highway 1, straight through Huntly, I might point out, not knowing that they were separate mountains. I thought it was the same mountain. One, you see, is heralded as the Tapu, Holy Mountain, and the other isn't. But in my mind, it's a bit like husband and wife. That they're both significantly there with their family of hills, stretching especially towards the east of Huntly, Taupri Range, one is totally recognised and the other one ignored. A bit like what man has done with his family. It's all focused on the husband. But the wife's equally there in the partnership. And the family wouldn't exist without the two of them. You know, was said, wasn't it, every successful man has a wonderful wife behind him. Probably driving him on. Well, certainly driving him on and giving him the reason for driving on too. Yes. Well, that was the old sort of family structure that is so in question now in the 21st century. As we launch into an uncharted territory of a postmodernist age. I know what this might be about now. I've had two landlords. One near the lake in Hamilton, New Zealand, and the other by the river in Hamilton, New Zealand. But the landlords themselves, the owners of that house, that I've lived in a bit, just as I've lived in the other one a bit, they actually live out of town. And their symbolism in my mind is family. They have 10 children, and they're an incredibly, wonderful couple. Christian in a fairly fundamentalist, non-conformist way, earnest. But their goodness, their loving kindness, their sincerity and earnestness transcends their religion. In the care of their family and their love of each other and their faithfulness to each other. I would to God that my life had been as successful as theirs, albeit it has been an incredible blessing to me. It's not that I'm not thankful, God. I'm thankful that you've brought me to an even clearer realization of what I valued at the start, which was love and integrity. And integrity in love, quite simply faithfulness. Well, my life has brought me to a greater realization of that, and that's a great blessing to me. For me, it sets me up for life eternal. Couldn't have entered heaven without it. But it's made me clear what's occurred to me in this early morning. It's 5:30 in the morning now, and I've been at it an hour or so, a couple of hours perhaps, hour and a half perhaps. It came to me that which mountain should I be at, in a sense? Which house should I be living in? Where should I be living? By the lake? which is in the middle of the city, as similarly was the house by the river. Or by the same river in the country where the family is. It wistfully and enchantingly seems very clear to me now. I should be in the country with the family. That truly has the answers. They don't realize it, but they actually do have the true answer to what the Jesus story is about. Well, they almost realize it, I think. But their fundamentalism is a great handicap. Oh my goodness. The miracle of the Christian story is that you can be in the Christian religion and still grasp the essence of the Jesus story. Thank you, Dad. I have done it in my, intellectual way. I don't mean not in earnest. I don't mean disparagingly. I mean in my devotion to the truth way. The truth of love. But they've done it in a devotion way to a fundamentalist interpretation of the Christian story. And their earnest devotion has somehow got them to a successfully loving life of family, which is what God longed for when he was alone before all else, and was all things, and desperately alone. Look, I'm playing on a story that I've lived, which is not really coming to Mum until I was 5, and yet knowing of her. And being an only child. And being in a household of turmoil and war. Endless war. Not quite endless, but oh dear. So I see God as having been alone, and therefore truly values what I value. I'm born of him, you see. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Wonderful God. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. Well, the river's more important than you think. It's symbolic, you see, river of life. And it flows north, which is what the Nile does, of course. And the country is your true habitation, not the city. The city looks so protected, doesn't it? But you're a target. You try hiding a city, it's not easy. Where's the country? Well, the army just walks past it to attack the city. And then it decides how it can use the citizens afterwards in its empire building. But do you see, it wipes out the city, but not the countryside. It just passes through. Takes what it wants, but you know. And the opportunity has arisen for me to, well, I could live over the garage. There's a flat that's become vacant. It's the only other accommodation in this huge house. The house itself has, I don't know, 6 or 7 bathrooms and don't know how many bedrooms. I don't think they know either. And a huge garden. And it's not in ruins, but it's earmarked to be demolished as part of the development of the area for housing. Which would be a terrible shame, but it's not happened for the last 5 or 6 years, and who knows how long God will have it not happen in the future. But where I should be, you see, is where I should be. And it's as regards the right people, the host of heaven, not the right place. In the city that's so favoured. Where I am is a very favoured place. I mean, the houses cost a fortune. Well, I mean, I'm just renting the upstairs. But I'd be better renting something similar, well, better really in some ways, in the country. I'm concerned at being isolated. I say isolated, it's only something like 5 miles from the lake that I'm living, 5 kilometres even, from the lake that I'm living by at the minute. But it's not as central as it is. But very good from my child's point of view, my little girl who I see. Although she spends most of her time with Mum now at the minute. She would love all the animals that are at the house in the country, and all the children. Could be very attractive to her. So that's in the back of my mind quite strongly. Quite apart from the loveliness of the family, from my point of view, to be part of, and I could help. Oh, that's major too. I'd be in a better position to be a blessing if I'm on site. Oh, that sounds all very noble and perhaps very interfering. Especially as I am worried that I'm not a fundamentalist and perhaps I'm not in enough harmony with them. Well, I'm not in too much harmony here either. I'm not really well, enough said. Thank you, Dad. Enough said. It's become clear to me. It's as if God's, let me colourfully say, suddenly spoken to me. That you know where you should be, Marshall. You going to trust me for it or not? I'm going to trust you for it, Lord. I love trusting you for it. It's just wonderful. I just want to thank you for being my God. My dear friend, my dad. A perfect dad. I just love you. Just so love you. Just so glad you had me love you. I didn't even know you. was a stranger to religion, but not to love. And I found love in a desolate religion. You have to dig deep to find the Jesus story. You've got all this theological rubbish in the way. All this doctrine. 2,000 years of incomprehension and misdirection. Willfully directed by the state for its own purposes, of course. You have to be a nonconformist, a rebel. Some people think nonconformists are nonconformists for the sake of not conforming. They're not. They're just so dissatisfied with what everybody else is conforming to. And they look at it and say, what you're conforming to is your problem. In communist terms, you need to break free from your chains.